Hello everybody, welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia and it's time for Friday Reads. And happy St. Patrick's Day as well. It has been a great week in reading. Last weekend, at some point, I surpassed 500 subscribers, which was very exciting. And we had a little teeny weeny celebration of that in our family. I'll tell you about it in just a couple minutes. And then also around that same time, I was kindly included in a shout out video by Nikki at Red Dot Reads, and I will link her shout out video below so that you can watch that and also get a look at her channel. She has some really fun ways that she creates her TBRs, and she reads a lot of books that are compatible with things that I like as well, so I think that you might enjoy her content. And take a look at her shout out video because she also highlights some other really fun booktubers with some great content. So thank you so much, Nikki, for the shout out, and thank you to everyone who has subscribed and helped me reach the pinnacle of booktube-ness that I am sitting upon today. I think I'm at like 527 this morning, so I'm still a small channel, but I have really enjoyed this time, and we are approaching my 1 year mark that I think is around May. I'm going to have to check and see. But that was all very exciting. Also, this week, my daughter and her cat came to visit for a few days, and we had a really great time. We did a lot of things around town. The weather did not cooperate for the beach, but we did some museum things, thrifting, visited some restaurants that we liked, and we had this adventure, Emma Grace and I, not Steven, because he's not much of a thrifter, but we went to the Goodwill bins. And I don't know if any of you have ever done this, but I've always wondered about the bins, and now I live in a city that has them. This is a clearance center where it's like a giant warehouse room full of big rolling bins that are just full of stuff. And they kind of separate like the clothes from things that aren't clothes. But other than that, there's no separation. It's just a room full of bins full of clothes mostly. And you dig through them and look for treasures. So it can be fun and it can be gross. And there's these people that are really aggressive that wait till periodically they roll out some new bins. So they're like hovering like vultures, and then as soon as the people step back, they race in and they start digging through, and it was crazy. Anyway, that has nothing to do with booktube, but I just thought I'd throw that in there as one of the adventures of the week. So back to the 500 subscribers. So we were very excited, and then Emma Grace was here visiting, and it also was the occasion of her half birthday, which is a special holiday celebrated by only children, my only child. And so she was 21 and a half. So we went, of course, to the bookstore. And here's what I picked out for myself to celebrate my 500 subscribers. And so I got two books that I am excited about. The first one is a new release, which is I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Makkai or Makkai. I'm not sure how she pronounces her name, but I'm really excited about this. I loved her book, The Great Believers, and I have heard a few really strong reviews of this book so far, and it sounds really great. It is about a woman who is a film professor and a podcaster who goes back to a boarding school that she attended in New Hampshire, and she, I guess, was not happy during her years at this school. And during her senior year, there was a murder, and the school's athletic trainer was convicted of this murder, but maybe that is not who did the murder. And she goes back to the school. Why does she go back? Oh, they want her to teach a class, and then all these questions come back up. And I think that it is more complicated than that, but I don't know yet because I haven't read it. I will let you know, but I'm really excited about this. And then the other one that I bought is straight out of Booktube because so many people have talked about this book and how much they loved it. So I picked up a copy of A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr, which was published in 1980. And it is about a man who goes after World War I. He's a veteran, it says, a veteran of the Great War and a broken marriage. He goes to a remote Yorkshire village to restore a recently discovered medieval mural in the local church. So I think it's one of these stories that is kind of quiet and beautiful about his month in the country working on this restoration, and maybe his own personal restoration is my best guess. But I've just heard so many people talk about what a beautiful short novel this is, and I found it was, I mean, it was hard to find too. It's so small. It was kind of hiding in between things in the store, and I just had to get it. So those are the two I got. And then we got 2 books for Emma that she wanted for her half birthday. And I will put a picture of those up because she's gone, took them with her. But she got Hellbent by Lee Bardugo, which I want to borrow because I read Ninth House. And then also this other book she got was by Owen King, whose title I cannot remember, but I'll find it and put a picture of it up there. And we will hear from her eventually about how she liked those books. She was reading The Golden Enclaves when she was here, the Naomi Novik, is that her name? She's been reading that trilogy. Because I'm so discombobulated today, I just realized that I did not talk about shows as I usually begin with. There's really nothing super new to report except that Ted Lasso has started back up. So we did watch the first episode of season 3 last night and enjoyed that. And then we are almost at the end of Shrinking, and we're still in season 2 of Hacks. So that's where we are. Somehow it's gotten to be all comedies right now. So I don't have anything real illuminating to say about the TV shows at the moment. So let's move on to the books. The main book that I finished this week, and it was definitely the star of the week and maybe the star of the month, although there's quite a bit of the month left, so we'll see what happens. But I read Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. And if you watched last week, I told a little story about how I got this twice from the library, but I ran out of time the first time around. And I'm really glad that I re-requested this because I loved this book. This book was, and I think it is Armfield's first novel, although she had a previous collection of short stories. So I may have to see if I can find those and see how I feel about those as well. But this is a novel about a couple, Leah and Mary. And Leah is a marine biologist who goes on a submarine mission with it's a crew, as part of a crew of 3 people. And it's supposed to be a 3-week mission, but she is gone for 6 months. During this time, her wife Mary does not get a whole lot of updates about why the mission is delayed. They work for a somewhat shadowy group called the Center, and apparently Leah used to work somewhere else, and then in the past few years, she's worked for this place, the Center. And at first, the Center sent out a few messages that the mission was delayed or was going to take a little bit longer, and then the communications kind of trailed off, and that she ended up being down there for 6 months. The book is structured in sections that correlate to the levels of the ocean going down. And there's a place in the book where Leah talks about what each level is and what kind of creatures live there. And so the book progresses through the levels, and then it alternates the chapters between Leah and Mary. Mary is in the current day trying to deal with Leah, who has come back very changed. She barely eats. She doesn't talk very much, and when she does, it's disjointed commentaries about things in the ocean. Her personality is almost gone. She just sort of drifts around the apartment in a daze and spends a lot of time in the bathtub. And Mary isn't sure what to do about this. She has trouble reaching anybody at this center to ask for advice about these strange behaviors. Leah, on the other hand, in her chapters, is telling the story of what happened during the submarine dive and how, as time progressed, and they were just down there in the dark with no communication, and things get progressively stranger, and people start to lose it a little bit. So we're going back and forth between these 2 stories, and it has an atmosphere that is very unsettled and uneasy. The first book that it reminded me of a little bit, and not at all about the plot or the content or the characters or anything, but just the way it made me feel, was Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam, in the fact that you just have this pervasive sense throughout the whole book that something's not right. You don't know what it is. You don't know where you're going with it. It's just this kind of strange, almost creepy feeling. But I liked it. I liked the strange and unsettled feeling, and it's definitely the vibe that was going on in the apartment with Mary and Leah for sure. And you don't really know. This is a book where you have to accept that you are not going to get solid answers on everything that's going on here. You will get some resolution and some feeling of what is occurring, but you will not get 100% tie-ups of what exactly has happened. So when you get to the end of this book, you know, sometimes when you get to the end of a book, this can happen two ways. You get to the end and you're like, what just happened? What was that? And that could be bad or it could be really good. Now, something that makes the book really beautiful is that so much of it is an elegy of this relationship. Leah and Mary both spend a lot of time thinking about each other in their separation and just reflecting on the different stages of their relationship and different moments in their love story. And that is just really what gives this book its emotional heft. So I had along the way, I had a few different theories about what might be happening, and most of them were wrong, which is also oddly satisfying because I like that the book did not take me in any kind of predictable path or a way that is similar to something else that I have read. This weird story just really works on a lot of levels for me. Okay, so coming out of that book with such a strong feeling, it might have set me up for failure in trying to latch on and get involved in the next book. So my next book, I don't know if this is a DNF or if it is a failure to launch and I'm going to try again. And I might need your help. If somebody has read The Family Chao, should I give this book another chance? Because here's what happened. I started reading it and I just could not engage. I was so excited. I wanted to read this for like a year. And this is what I thought it was, but I'm not sure this is what it really is. But I thought it was a murder mystery about a Chinese American family that runs a well-beloved Chinese restaurant in a town in Wisconsin. And there's a husband and wife and these 3 grown sons. Now, what is actually occurring is, in this family, the wife has left the father at some point, and she's living at this Asian center in town. And the dad is just this outrageous jerk. He's just absolutely horrible and verbally abusive to everybody. And so right from the beginning, you know, if he's the one who's going to be murdered, it's a real setup that a lot of people might have a motive. The 3 sons, the oldest one was successful out on his own, but he came back to help his dad at a time when his mother was ill, and he just got stuck there. And he is very bitter and upset that his dad has not cut him in as a partner in the restaurant. The middle son is also out of the home and out of town and successful, and he doesn't really want to have any part of this. And then the youngest one is a college freshman. And they all come back because the oldest brother asked everyone to come back and attend this family meeting. And I did not get very much farther than that because what threw me off here was the way that the brothers were conversing. It was so stilted and unnatural. Like a group of young men in their 20s, the way they were talking to each other didn't sound realistic at all. It just sounded really contrived. And I couldn't like anybody. Like I don't need to like everybody, but I couldn't find any foothold anywhere in here. Everybody seemed pretty obnoxious, and maybe it gets better. Maybe it just didn't hit my mood correctly. And then I went back and I thought maybe I missed something in the reviews. It has really high reviews in the professional journals, but when I looked at it on Goodreads for reader reviews, it was more middle of the road, and some people had the same kind of problems I did. And also they said that the murder doesn't happen until about halfway through the book. So it's a little bit misbilled as being a straight up murder mystery. Apparently there is a murder in a courtroom segment of the book. And whether or not the person on trial was the murderer maybe is still up for debate. So I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's the family, Chao. But for the moment, it is a failure to launch, and I moved on. So please tell me in the comments if I should go back and start again with some sort of different mindset. So at that point, I needed something that was kind of fail-safe. So I picked up The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. And this is a fast-paced one, and it's pretty short. So I think I'll finish it today or tomorrow. But this, of course, is the first novel in which Hercule Poirot, or something to that effect. It is the first novel. Of course, this is a little caricature of him, but the perpetually retired but just coming back to help with this one-time detective is in this story, and it is the story of a young man named Hastings. It's right after World War I, and he is recuperating from his war injury, and he's invited by an old friend to come and stay at their rich person country estate in the village kind of place that shows up in all these books. And there's an assorted bunch of people at the estate, including the lady of the manor, who is about 70 years old and very cantankerous. She changes her will all the time. Every time she's mad at different people or happy with different people, she's rewritten her will a whole bunch of times, of course, so that part of the story is going to be like tracking down the most recent one. And she comes up dead very early on in the book, and it appears that it could be a heart attack or it could be poison. I'm guessing poison. And the thing with her is that she recently remarried a man about 20 years younger, and nobody's happy about it. Her grown sons are not happy about it, and her best friend is not happy, but nobody's happy. So he, of course, is suspect number one. I'm going to guess that he's not really the culprit because that seems a little obvious, but we shall see. So far it's quite entertaining and enjoyable. And I wonder if I can find this little description of a character. The early scene where Poirot is questioning different people that work in the house, and he calls in this maid and to ask her some questions. And the way that they describe her, I thought this describes everybody reading a murder mystery. It says, Annie was a fine, strapping girl and was evidently laboring under intense excitement mingled with a certain ghoulish enjoyment of the tragedy. And I'm thinking intense excitement and ghoulish enjoyment of the tragedy is what I am looking for in a good murder mystery every time. Of course, I am still reading David Copperfield as well, and I guess I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and I am still really enjoying it. So there's not a lot I can say about David Copperfield at this point because I'm so far in that it would be spoilers, but I did want to make notice of a minor character that I really enjoyed in this week's part of the reading, and that is Mrs. Moucher. And she is Miss Moucher. She is a person that comes into the story and then reappears a little later on. And the first time that she appears, she's kind of played for laughs, and I was a little dismayed and felt that it was out of date because she is a little person. She's a traveling hairdresser and manicurist, and so she makes her living going from place to place and cutting the hair and doing the nails of wealthy people, and she collects a lot of gossip and intel that way as well. So she's presented in a very comedic way in that first scene, and I thought that it was, just very outdated. But then she reappears a little while later, and Charles Dickens kind of redeems himself at this point because when she comes in, she's very upset. And it's because I don't want to do any accidental spoilers, but she realizes that she was involved accidentally in an unfortunate event in the story, and because she misunderstood a situation. So she wants to tell David that she did this thing, but she's very upset about it, and she's sorry. And he is taken aback because she was so cheerful and funny when he saw her before, and she comes in and she's all upset and distraught in the same manner that everybody else is about this thing that has happened. And so he starts to talk, and he says, "I'm surprised I began to see you so distressed and serious," when she interrupted me. "Yes, it's always so," she said. "They are all surprised, these inconsiderate young people, fairly and full grown, to see any natural feeling in a little thing like me. They make a plaything of me, use me for their amusement, throw me away when they're tired, and wonder that I feel more than a toy horse or a wooden soldier. Yes, yes, that's the way, the old way." And she goes on to dress him down about assuming that she is not a normal person, that she does not have a normal range of feelings and intellect as any other woman. And several times she says, "You need to consider me the same way you would any other full-grown woman." And she leaves him with a piece of advice to be sure and not attribute mental incapacities to someone because they have an obvious physical difference. I was really surprised and pleased at Miss Moucher's reappearance and the wisdom that she passed on to young David in this scene. And also makes me think about all the times throughout history when little people are used for comic purposes instead of just included as a regular person in the tapestry of the book or the movie or whatever it is. So that was a takeaway I got out of this week's section of David Copperfield. So that is what I have planned and what I have been reading. Let me know what you have read this week. Tell me if I am way off the track about the family Chao, or anything else that you heard me discuss today, or what have you been reading this week? What do you have planned for the weekend? And that is about it for now. I hope that you have an excellent weekend, and I will talk to you again in a few days. Thanks. Bye-bye.